Des from Aro-Tarot here, and I literally just filmed the last 4 days of Ethony's 21 Days of Tarot Challenge, and then I was like, it's long, I could split it up, but I feel like I just talk too much. So I'm just gonna say it all again, because if I say it all again, I'll probably talk less. So then people don't have to hear me talk as much, if anyone does watch it. So anyway, I'm just gonna start over. Because I know 28 I kind of went on about, so I can make it shorter. So 28 is share one celebrity that you would refuse to read for no matter how much they paid you and why. And I got a kick out of it when I first read this question. And I shared it to my mom, and she was like, same. And that's because the first thing we thought of when we read this was Trump. Because, yeah, you could give me like $1 million or something. I mean, I would maybe do it for $1 million and then like donate it or something. Like, be like, okay, like, I'll take this much amount because of me having to deal with your ass, but I'm gonna donate the rest because so the people can get the money that they actually need. And that's literally, why? Because he's a jackass. Dumbass, you know, like. So if we weren't getting political, I would say my favorite band, All Time Low, because it's like the same with if you were giving, like, I wouldn't want to give like a romance one or like I don't know, like a really serious one, you know? It's like the same with like family members. Would you want to give like more of a serious one to like a family member or a romance one? Like, I feel like I would be afraid that I would get their hopes up, or that like even just the instance that, I don't know, maybe death came up and then I have to explain like, death is not that bad, no, you know, kind of thing. And I actually made a tarot deck about them, like literally, but like I would probably say that. And then obviously the one would be my favorite member, which is Jack. Jack's my favorite. So yeah, like, especially considering how I view soulmates, which is more so that you have multiple, you can have multiple ones. It's not necessarily romantic. Could be romantic in one life, not in the next. But I just see it as more so of two souls that are kind of drawn to each other throughout their lives. You might not even meet them in one life, but you know, it's just usually there's a pool. Which, I did a soulmate reading for my mom, but she already knows how I view soulmate. Like, I've told her how I view soulmates, so, you know, there's not the whole me having to explain it kind of thing. But yeah, I wouldn't really want to, like, if they were like, please, I'd probably give in because I love them. You know, like, they're my favorite band, but then at the same time, I would just be worried. You know, so like, the cameras. I think that's better. Maybe. I don't know. So like, yeah, it's just one of those instances. And literally me just saying all that and just explaining it like that just cut probably like 10 minutes off of me saying it. Will you boys be nice? Yeah, walk away, Alistair. Eric's thirsty. He was just standing in front of the water bottle being like, I'm the man of the cage. And then Eric's like, can I have some water? Oh. Do you need hay again? You think I'm just gonna eat? I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna eat what's in here. And look at you because you're looking at me. Okay, after I film this, I'm gonna give them more hay. They're going through that hay so fast. Like, the second half of the bag was like, I don't know, more like broken up for some reason. Which means that it falls through more. And I have more to clean up. Yeah, I'll fill your bowl a bit more too. I just gave them like lettuce like a couple hours ago, so. They want more guinea pig food now. Oh. Alistair's staring at me anyway. I'm gonna continue on. Like, with my space that the time that I saved by just saying that so littly, I'm just gonna talk about how cute the guinea pigs are. Yes, and I'll sweep up your cage later. And then Eric was like, drinking water. Anyway, 29, we'll see how short I can explain it this time. 29 is, what are your beliefs around the mechanics of a reading? How do you think it works? Is it your subconscious, higher self, spirit? And for me, it's none of the above. For like my belief system, I don't do the whole spirit thing. Same with like, I'm not pagan either. I just have my own belief system. I started off when I was younger. I used to be Roman Catholic. And I didn't like it. I remember my last year, I had to do after school stuff, and I remember my last year, I was actually the one that was very much like, scientifically, which is funny because my brother ended up being the atheist, and I didn't. But yeah, so I was Roman Catholic. I tried Wicca for a bit. That didn't work out. Then it was like pagan-ish ideas, but like really just going through the flow for like years until like last year, where I was like, I'm sitting down. That's my belief system. I'm done. I got it. Which the best way I would compare it to without explaining it would be Atlantis: The Lost Empire, how the crystal works. And primals from Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah. Basically, those were actually the influence to help me explain how I thought of it, so, you know. I won't talk too much about that. Anyway, that's it. So no, not spirit, because I don't believe in that kind of stuff. Then I don't think it's subconscious or higher self. The thing with me, and most people that I've watched videos where they talk about the mechanics of tarot usually say one of those three things. I heard something outside the door. I was waiting to see if it's someone opening and go like, hey Des. Is it gonna be? Who knows? Anyway, so yeah, I don't think it's subconscious or higher self either. And usually, like, those three things are the things that I see people talking about when they believe in tarot kind of stuff. I think I've only really heard one person I follow say their beliefs, and it just happened to be the same as the belief system that I ended up being, which is why I reblogged that. I reblogged that because I was like, same reblog. But yeah, so for me, the beliefs more so not spirit. I mean, like, I'll explain the whole like that kind of thing out later. I'm just gonna pull out one of the decks because it's easier to talk to about it with me just holding a deck. Because why not? So yeah, so when it comes to decks, for me, like, a lot of people talk and they'll be like, your tool. Like, it's okay if you can't work with it because it's just a tool. Or you come on it because it's a tool and you gotta be able to work with it. But for me, I'm the tool. You know, like, I'm the tool, you know? I think there was one person in my comments that kind of seemed to have the same idea about it as me. It was in my Aro video. But yeah, for me, it's more so, yeah, because we were talking about translating what the deck meant. So for me, it's more so that how tarot decks have different personalities, and that really, like, you know, like, that idea, like, really resonated with me. And it does more so in the sense that it's like taking it a step further, where kind of almost like crystals. I mean, I don't feel it, but my brother has, and I know a lot of people have. I just don't really feel the energy of crystals. Never have. I don't know if I ever will, you know. It's just, they're crystals and they're pretty. I don't know, I don't really feel anything with them, you know. No tingling, no nothing. But, you know, like, crystals have energies. For me, decks have energies. And the energy of decks, you know, have their own personality, their own pronouns that they want to use. I got one deck, and I kept questioning about what pronouns I wanted to use, and it was like, this is okay, this is also okay, this is okay. And I'm like, are you like gender fluid or something? And the deck's like, yes. And I'm like, that's a first. You know, like, for me, it's almost like decks are alive in a way. Because, like, I guess it would be like their energy. You know, like, it's interesting. I guess it's another way of how crystals work in Final Fantasy XIV and Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which is my second favorite Disney movie, by the way. But yeah, so when you're asking a deck, you know, questions, you're asking the deck, you know. It's not like your higher self or your subconscious or like another being kind of thing. It's the deck. So if I'm like, yo, deck, give me advice about this, the deck is gonna give me advice, you know. That's why some decks, it's like, okay, I gotta work with this deck, or someone might maybe get the feeling they need to work with that deck. It's because that deck is the one that wants to answer the question. Or some decks specialize more so in finances, and some are better at love. It's because that's like the thing, you know, like, if someone was an expert in romance but not in finance, you wouldn't want to ask them, like, yo, can you give me, like, a job interview kind of advice? You know, they'd probably be like, what? You know, so. Yeah, basically it's almost like the decks are kind of alive-ish in a way with, like, their energy. I mean, I nickname all my decks. Like, I've asked all of, like, some of them, it's very simple when it comes to, like, this deck feels feminine to me, you know, like, I know their pronouns, or just, it just happens. Where there's some decks, like this one for instance, where I very much was like, when I first got it and was just looking it over before I, you know, got put away for Christmas, and I was like, ooh, maybe I'll name it after my main Dragon Age Inquisition character, Bellavana, you know, and call it Belle, or Anna for short. And when I finally got the deck for Christmas, I was like, this doesn't feel feminine. You know, and then I asked about pronouns, and it was like, masculine pronouns. And I'm like, okay. So then I was asking about the names, you know, and then I'm like, do you like this name? Do you like this name? And it ended up being Alistair, which is one of my favorite characters, so that's fine by me. And then, of course, I'm just shuffling, and Cullen comes up. That's another one. Literally have my Alistair and Cullen pillows over there that I snuggle with every night. Got my Alistair and Cullen necklaces. But for me, it's just more so when you're doing a reading, you're asking the cards. And I do think that, especially if you don't believe in tarot, the whole psychological idea of it is like perfect. Especially if you're trying to tell someone that doesn't believe in tarot about it. Which my brother has his moments where he's like, tarot. And then most of the time he's like, tarot, you know. I mean, I just said, you know, literally the atheist thing. You know, like, he's not really, he has interest. Like, crystals, sometimes the idea of energy with crystals, like, makes sense with him. Because they come from the earth. Earth obviously has some kind of energy, you know, like, so, like, that kind of makes sense. But also, whenever he's not believing that, he just likes crystals, so it works, you know. He just likes that kind of stuff. And so he at least agrees with the idea that if you're using a tarot deck for more of a psychological kind of thing, looking at the cards will make you think about things you wouldn't have thought of before. So more of like doing it by yourself, or maybe like with a sibling like me, where like it's like, oh, like maybe it's like this, you know, because you were just talking about this, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, like that kind of stuff, like more psychological-ish kind of idea with it. Like, I believe like that too, especially like, and that, you know, because that makes sense. Like, even if you're just talking to someone and they're asking advice, then you'll be like, oh yeah, you know, like that just makes sense, you know, just with communication. Now, the idea of some kind of like divine being or like other energy with the decks, like if I was to ask like Athena a question or something, it would be more so with her telling the deck, which is then telling me, which I then have to translate. So it's like that. So like the deck, it's still like kind of like how I'm the person in between the deck and whoever I'm doing a reading for, usually my brother. Then the deck would be the person between me and like Athena or whatever I'm asking, you know, like it's that kind of thing. So then it'd be funny if it was a divine being and then like someone else, because then it would be like the divine being, then to the deck, then to me, and then to, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just, for me, it's more so the decks, literally the decks themselves, are literally how they work. The mechanics, it's the deck. yeah. This video's still shorter than what it was before. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do 30 and 31 now too, just cause 31 I really don't have much to say about. 30 I ended up talking about more than I thought. Yeah, for 30, it's what is the most culturally inclusive deck that you own? And when I first thought of this question, I first thought of different cultures as in like Japanese culture or Indian, like this has an Indian card in it, and this one's Native American, you know, that kind of stuff. Which is something I don't really look for in decks, especially if it's like a bunch of cultures, because the whole time I'm questioning like, did a bunch of people work on this, or are you like a white person that's just like doing all these cultures, you know, like just trying to like sell it, you know, like, you know what I'm saying, you know, which I don't want to buy then. So there's kind of like that. So most of the decks I have just have more of like a sprinkle of different cultures when it comes to that. The other thing I did think of though was how it's not just like Native Americans, you know, like Indian, Japanese, Chinese. I just keep thinking of all the Asian cultures really. Of when it comes to cultures, because there are cultures that aren't just that kind of thing. Like, for instance, I thought of LGBT plus and kind of like almost like literally I see like, I think that would be considered a meme with the whole gay culture's this, gay culture's that. Like, I see that sometimes. You know, so like obviously, like literally that. I've seen the ace culture. That was a thing. On the Ace Clubs for like a little bit. What's ace culture? It's puns, cake, going to Ace Hardware store, space, you know, like ace culture. So yeah. Oh, and being invisible. Oh, I went there. Yeah. Almost out of tea. But, like, even each part of the community, like, that community has different communities in it, and, like, each one kind of has its own culture. So that's the other thing I thought of. So, if I was to think of the one that has maybe the most in it, I'd probably say the Sinking Wasteland Tarot. Because there actually are characters that aren't all white. Like, which is cool. There's also characters... Like, I was talking about, all the kings are guys, but there are some characters like this king, for instance. It's got the long hair. There's a lot of guy characters in here. Like, I don't know if it's a lot, but I just noticed that there are guy characters in here with long hair, which fits the aesthetic, but also, like, something you don't see all the time. And then, like, the way the lips are drawn, it almost looks like all the characters are wearing lipstick, and then he's obviously wearing some kind of, like, eyeliner or something, and his chest is being covered. So it comes off kind of androgynous, too. Like, here's the Queen of Swords with her awesome hair, you know. You know, and then there's some robots in here. Like, here's a samurai. But, you know, like, not all the characters are white. There are some that are... And you get, like, some actual cultural hair, like with that one. And where was it? I think I put it back by accident. I had like them all up front when I was talking. Yeah. I was going to say the Two of Swords. Oh, there it is. Found it. You know, like, cultural hair, man. And just at least all the characters aren't white. And then I like how the lovers, when I look at it, they both look androgynous to me, so they could be like whatever, you know? And then the Two of Cups. It's two ladies kissing. The Four of Wands is two guys dancing. And, you know, there's just, like I said with like how the lovers is, there are some characters where I look at them and I don't necessarily go, oh, that's a guy, that's a girl. Like, it's hard to, when you're trying to, like, look for the ones that are like that. But, like, to me, like, they could almost, like, the hermit, because they're wearing a cloak. But, like, there are guy characters in here with long hair. So, like, to me, like, while, like, I initially was like, that's a girl, like, to be honest, like, you don't really know, though. And the book doesn't actually say anything about the art either, so, like, literally, it could be just whatever. So, yeah, like, or, like, this character, it's got a character down there with short hair, and literally could be either. And that's one of the things I like about this deck. It's really cool. I mean, the edging isn't, like, the best. I did have some one card, the whole bottom chipped off of it. It was the second full card, but it hasn't been chipping since. But, yeah. Like, I'd probably say that deck. Then, you know, like, there's some, like, the Vintage Wisdom Oracle, where there's 2 cards that I can think of, because I thought the one was adorable. That's Japanese. The Sakurai Bito Tarot obviously has Japanese influence in it. I wouldn't say anime or manga like some people say. It doesn't look like any anime or manga I've seen. Looks more like more of the traditional Japanese art, I would say. I don't know, it makes me think more about that or just Japanese influence than anime or manga. Because it doesn't look like any anime or manga I've seen. Not even some of the older ones that I've seen images. There was one I was going to watch that was, oh, I don't know how old that one was. I don't know, it was older, but yeah. But, you know, that one's obviously got some Japanese influence. There's some others, like, Justice League Tarot. One of the things I liked about it is the 2 of Cups is Apollo and Midnighter. So, yeah, I would say that one, and then some of the other decks are more, like, sprinkled in. Since heavily culturally inclusive decks, I don't really look for, especially if it's made by the white person. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. Anyway, this is still shorter, to be honest, than what it was last time. I'll go ahead and include 31 because I don't have much to say. And that's, what's your favorite tarot apps? Do you work with them? On what platforms? Smartphone, tablet, etc. And there was only one that I've actually used, and I don't really even use it anymore. I used it to test myself, and then after I tested myself, I realized I did know the meanings a lot more than I thought I was, and I ended up not really using it. However, I did recommend it to my mom when she started using tarot, and to my friend when they started to, and it's Labyrinthios. That's a really good app for learners. It actually is the reverse too, but I'm not going to learn the reverse, so I don't do reverse meanings, so yeah. But it's just like a quiz thing with keywords, and it's very simple. The artwork, that the deck that's used in it is the, oh crap, what's the name of it? I can't think of the name of it. I've seen it around a bit. Sorry. You know, it's that favorite band member. But yeah, I can't remember the name of it. I don't have the deck, so. Yeah, I don't really use apps. I usually just use the decks. And I do have many decks, but usually, I mean, I carry around a purse, so I can literally just fit decks in. So, yeah. But I would say that one. I mean, I've recommended it. Whenever it would come up on Tumblr for, like, this is a good one to learn, I'm like, reblog because I know it's a good one to learn. Even though I didn't really use it much. It was more of like a, Des, you're good. Go ahead and do readings for yourselves now. I'm like, okay, Des. You know, so. Anyway, yeah, that was the last day, and I did, to be honest, I could just let the camera charge, but I think filming on my phone is a lot funnier. Because literally, I was like, hey, I fit it all in the 30-minute mark. That, like, the camera's limited, like, 29, and what happens? It died. Oh. I just thought that was funny. Because, like, literally, I was just, hey, I did it. Oh, and then it died. I have a weird sense of humor. Anyway, I'm just gonna end it like this because I think it's funny.
It's probably not funny. I think it's funny though. But anyway, I'm Des from Aro-Tarot. That was the rest of 31 days at Ethony's 31 Days of Tarot Challenge. And I'm logging off.